Welcome back to Smart Driving Cars. This is a special edition. Thanks for being here. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University and co-author of the new book, The Real Case for Driverless Mobility. Got to keep plugging, Alan.
Yeah,
Alan Kornhauser.
please. I need some new whatever. Yes.
As we said, this is a special edition. This week, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, came out with the automatic emergency braking system requirements that will be required in new cars sold in the U.S. by September of 2029. And joining us from NHTSA is the Chief of the Visibility and Injury Prevention Division, Markus Price. Hi, Markus. We really appreciate you spending time with us.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. I look forward to our discussion.
Yeah, very happy to have somebody that actually knows what's in the report and in the final ruling. I'm very happy to see that. Last year, he came out with the preliminary, and of course in the enabling legislation, we've been expecting this, I guess, and boy, it's I don't know, long time coming, but maybe not long. I mean, to actually do it, it takes a while. So, but we're doing it. Okay.
Let's start with a little overview and background here. Some of the history and what led up to this, Markus. This has been, I suppose, years in the making.
Yeah, from NHTSA's perspective, we've been paying attention to sensing technology that's looking out in front of the vehicle and doing something. It started with kind of a warning, right? Some type of radar, and then, hey, there's some kind of a warning out there. We've been watching that since the late 90s, frankly, and it began to progress and has matured over time. NHTSA's participation kind of in 2011, it was that in our new car assessment program, we began letting consumers know, hey, these are the vehicles that have forward collision warning. And then in 2015, we added information about what vehicles have crash imminent braking and dynamic brake support. Those are really the building blocks of AEB. And then finally, in the last couple of years, we began to test some vehicles and found there's some vehicles that are doing some really, really good things and performing really well in a way that can have a serious impact on safety. And so that's when we began to say, I think it's time to regulate. And so, like you mentioned, we worked on the notice of proposed rulemaking. We got lots of comments, and then a few days ago, we finalized the requirements.
It seems I'd like to take things back even a little farther. The 5 mile per hour bumper. We weren't supposed to have any damage at 5 mile. Sort of that. I don't know. Then we put a radar out in front of the car, and oh my goodness, you can't even do 5 mile an hour bumper. I don't know. I mean that's just, my goodness. But the opportunity to let's not do crash mitigation. Let's do crash avoidance. I mean, it's nice to do mitigation, but if you can avoid, why not? And of course that's absolute. I mean, then nothing happens. I mean, it's unbelievable, the potential change. And then of course the auto industry said, oh no, we'll do it ourselves by 2020. And I think with great intention. And can you what happened? Why didn't they do it by 20? I mean, not to throw eggs at them or anything like that. I mean, this is not easy. Otherwise, it would have been done. Okay. I mean, what were the real challenges that somehow you now think you can get them to get over, so that in fact by 29 they have a chance?
Yeah, well, you get 20 manufacturers together and say, what can you all agree on? It's the lowest common denominator, right? It's the one who can do the least ends up winning the argument. And so I think that agreement, and again, as good as it is, the market takes them in places that isn't always directed towards safety. It took them to a pretty low level of performance. they've done an excellent job in many ways of actually getting AEB on their vehicles. But what we're seeing and what our testing showed was some vehicles were able to operate at much higher speeds and to brake much more consistently and avoid crashes, where others were kind of at that agreement level where they're at 25 miles an hour and they're still hitting things, but they applied the brakes. And the difference in safety between that is dramatic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, David Zuby. I mean, for my IHS has these videos. I mean, well, you're saying what? Oh my goodness! You know, forget. I'm sure you have the equivalent videos that he's. I mean, come on, 12 miles an hour. and so, but why do you? Why did the ones that didn't work not work? I mean, is it that they didn't want to put the? And I don't even know if we can answer that without what's really hard here.
Devoting the resources.
Yeah. Okay.
The,
So
the engineers.
You think it's devoting the resources?
Yeah, I really do.
One of the things is, if this is going to do it for us, it basically has to do it with probability approaching 1. Nothing, I mean, that's a tough thing to do when you get out on the asymptote of the probability and the false alarm business. And I tried to go through your latest findings, and maybe at some point we can talk about the false alarm. Where are we? Where do we have to be? Where does everybody have to be with that? Because of course, if you have these things coming on when they shouldn't come on, the poor consumer there is not a happy camper. You get emails, you get phone calls, you get the car gets returned as a lemon. Who knows? I mean, how do we really, is that a resource constraint? Just have to put the resources to get the probability that these things actually work.
Yeah, I think it's a resource issue. From a regulatory agency standpoint, false activations that cause an unreasonable risk to safety are a problem, and our agency can do something about it.
Yeah. But even if they don't do the safety problem, it causes a consumer problem, and the consumer gets under there and cuts the wires, or who knows what the return. I mean, somehow right. And
yeah, from sort of an academic market forces, those annoyance false activations, those manufacturers have a really strong incentive to avoid those, right? So what we do have in this final rule, we have a couple of false activation tests.
Okay.
They're pretty rudimentary, right? They're not our regulations aren't well equipped to go, okay, there's a multitude of situations that you need to perform well and not have false activations. We picked 2 that we knew were of particular usefulness, right? So one, early on, we saw trench plates that are used in construction sites, just a big steel plate. And the radar had a tough time figuring out what was going on there, right? So we have that test where we're going to run it over a steel trench plate, and it needs to not slam on the brakes. The other is just a really common situation. We borrowed this test from Europe, actually. Just multiple cars parked on the side of the road, and you just have to drive through them without slamming on the brakes.
Yeah, I've always wondered about sort of maybe another one, because much of this problem has to do with a stationary object ahead. I mean, that's the primary thing. I don't know, what you have to do with moving object, delta V's, impacts on collision, and all the other stuff, but the stationary object ahead, and what seems to always bug me about all the ones that nobody wants to give me an answer to is an overpass. I come down a road, there's an overpass. That overpass is a stationary object. Okay. Now, somehow, if they don't hit the brake, did they really measure the clearance on that overpass and said, "Oh yeah, I'm good. I can pass underneath it"? Or if it's like your steel plate, is the lip of that sucker, big and such that I can't pass over it? And I would suspect that that's what happens with the radar and the reflection of the radar as it does all that stuff into the D, and you get into the details. As long if I can pass over it, no problem. If I can pass under it, no problem. There are situations just north of you on 29 and Silver Springs or whatever it is up there, where in which 29 goes like this underneath. I don't know when these things are going to implement. I imagine I could be at a speed in which my time to collision to this thing, but hey, the road's going to dip. Okay. I don't want this thing going off there. And of course they don't either. I mean, can we really deal with that? Or what are your, or am I just goofy?
Yeah, I think we can. One of the reasons I have confidence that that manufacturers can deal with that. We're finalizing a pretty stringent requirement compared to where a lot of the fleet is.
Yeah.
But we found a vehicle that does this already. So we're not stretching beyond what any manufacturers already said. We're confident this can do this, or we wouldn't put it on the road. Right? They're not allowed to put it on the road if they don't have confidence that it is safe, right?
Yeah, in other words, I think, not to put words in your mouth, this thing has to be intelligent enough to understand that, hey, maybe the road does dip, or maybe, the reflection of the whatever, it really does only represent this, not that, and so on. And that is, it seems as if, in the past with just the warning, as an outsider in the Princeton bubble, I'd say, well, geez, I mean, if you're giving me a warning, why don't you hit the brakes? I mean, why don't you just do it for me? And of course, I guess they weren't sure or something, or they hadn't put enough into it. And then, but by 29, they're going to have to be sure, right?
Absolutely.
Otherwise, they can't put it on the road. This sort of same thing happened to you, maybe, with the analog brakes and with the stability control. And by 2012, every car had to have stability control. So you sort of went through the same sort of business prior to that, in which folks put, stability control systems that, I don't know, you might roll your eyes at. I don't know if you did or you didn't. I don't want to suggest that you did. But by 2012, that stuff had to work, right? Because I'm taking a turn too fast. It's not warning me; it's doing it, right? You're intervening. I want to turn real sharp, and you're saying, "Oh no, Alan, don't turn quite so sharp, because if you turn that sharp and you go that fast, you're going to lose it," right? I mean, that's basically what that thing does, and it takes over. It doesn't let me be an idiot. I mean, to me, that's the same thing with the analog brakes. I'm there. I need to stop. I know what to do. Okay, and but you've put in, and you've done the legal. You've fought it in court. People have said, "Oh no, I it should have paid attention to me," and you've won all those things, I guess. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. What do you think the process is going to be like with respect to this one? Okay, because this one, I'm not putting on the brakes. You are, or you being the car company, and you better not be hurting me, I guess. Otherwise, I'm going to complain. I heard, to put it in the simplest of terms, I think. talk to me here. Sorry.
Yeah, I certainly can't predict the future. I know
Yeah,
what
no, I
paths
know.
may exist, right?
No, I know.
The first path that exists is petitions for reconsideration. That's a regulatory path that if manufacturers look at it and go, oh, we see what you're doing now, and we forgot to tell you in the NPRM stage. Here's some other things you need to know about, and we think you should reconsider what you've done. That's a regulatory process that's available for everyone.
That still exists. So maybe 29 doesn't occur. Okay, right? Is that what you're saying? Or
well, we're on a path that 29 occurs.
Yeah,
right?
I know. We're on a path, but they could come in there and this is crazy stuff you're asking for us to do, and we can't do it. I guess I don't know, but the expectation is that on this one, this one's going to happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You've said you've tested, right? Some vehicles are at 17 and all, and most didn't fare too well. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So we looked at those vehicles. We ran them through, I guess, overall, kind of just take a step back, what it is that we're requiring, and we test accordingly is lead vehicle stuff, right? So this is, there's really 3 lead vehicle tests. A lead vehicle that's just sitting there, and the driver approaches it, and the vehicle needs to stop automatically and avoid up to 80 kilometers per hour. It needs to have stopped and not contacted at all. 80 kilometers per hour. We have kind of
80 is a big number from the number that you've been at, because you used to be, I know I'll talk miles per hour, but 12 and 25 is, I think, where you used to be. Are you going to change your star rating or something like that or whatever? No, that's too big of a question. We'll get there. Sorry. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries. The information we're giving now, though, by 2029 won't make any difference whatsoever. So you can take away from that what you will, right? So we have that lead 80 kilometers per hour. Now, if the driver applies the brakes, and we have kind of a systematic way of applying the brakes, but they don't do it hard enough to avoid the crash, we run that same test up to 100 kilometers per hour. So you're getting into real speeds where it gets dangerous. Yeah.
You really did that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have had a complaint. I've been complaining about you guys for some time. Okay, in my intelligent cruise control, okay, which I love, I use it all the time. Okay, if I tap the brakes, it turns it off. It's been driving me nuts. Okay, I know that when I had stupid cruise control, prior to intelligent cruise control, if I tapped the brakes, it turned it off. Well, it was only applying the brakes, not the throttle. So touching the brakes, I guess it means it's turn off with it. I think that when I touch the brake, I want to turn off the acceleration function, not the braking function, for the exact reason you just mentioned. I may not be applying the brakes hard enough. And I would love to have my system continue on and save my butt, because I'm not a buy. So if you've done this for automated emergency braking, and if automated emergency braking is on top of my intelligent cruise control, then I guess I'm good. I'm a happy camper. If you don't mind, Markus, just ask about. Nobody's given me a good reason as to why, if I tap my brakes, it turns the whole thing off. It should just turn off the acceleration function, because that's the thing that I think I'm indicating that I'm anti. Okay. But anyways, sorry to interrupt you here. Go, keep going.
No worries.
That's
we run these tests for the lead vehicle with adaptive cruise control on, potentially, right? We can choose to, and it should perform the same way, right? Why should it be any different? So yeah. So we have the lead stopped, and then we have a lead vehicle moving slower. So this is just, you come up on a slower moving vehicle, And then finally, there's a version where you're following each other, and the front one hits the brakes pretty hard, and it needs to automatically take over and apply the brakes. Then we have a pedestrian version as well.
Yeah, on the overtake or the following. I mean, what are you going to mandate with respect to separation distance? How do I get people to stay off my butt? I mean, I'm almost going to put a flashing sign in my rear window, back off, please. I mean, what are you doing there? I'm trying to get there probably faster than you are. Why you riding me?
Yeah, so we're not necessarily covering anything there. We're not helping you out there. I don't.
Oh, damn it!
So the separation distance that we're testing at is pretty aggressive. It's as close as 12 meters at 80 kilometers per hour. So this is a pretty. I don't want people that close to me when I'm traveling at that speed.
There is at least one vehicle that has met the standard. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. Yep.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a 2023 Toyota Corolla. And we knew Toyota was doing well. We had tested their Camry with a slightly earlier version. And we tested the 2023 Corolla, and it did outstanding.
Forgive me, then it's not a matter of the expense of the vehicle.
Exactly. We came to that exact same conclusion. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe Fred, we should look it up, or maybe Markus, that may be standard equipment on that vehicle. Is it, or is it an uptick? I mean, we can look it up. I mean, or our viewers can just go on, on Google and look it up to see if that. But it may very well be standard equipment, or minimal uptick in expense.
So your point seemed to be before that if one company can do this, and obviously it's not $100,000 vehicle here, if one can do it, all should be able to.
Yeah, that's exactly our point. Yep.
That is really great. To me, that's there are many things you could do. You could put breathalyzer tests and all kinds of other things, and I wish you'd put a top speed limiter or something like that. I mean, people are like crazy out there today, and maybe I've sort of flippantly suggested you kind of, if you really have to get to the hospital because it's life critical, you get a pass. You get a couple get out of jail free cards that you get to just implement without somebody, but then you have to justify at the end. Otherwise, we sort of, you don't get another one, in case you need it. But to try to deal with the situation. But boy, the speeds, I don't know what your consumer experience out there in the roadway these days are. But I mean, it's like, it's
along those lines, Markus, how much of an impact might this have? And this goes along with selling this whole thing to the public, if it needs selling. How much of an impact might this have in preventing the deaths and injuries, crazy behavior that so staggering today?
Yeah. So first, to remember the numbers we report, they're analyzing the regulation. So this is the difference between where we think the world would be if we didn't regulate and where it is where we do regulate. So it's not of the technology itself, right? It's of what we're requiring beyond where we think folks would go voluntarily. So we think this rule will save 362 lives a year, which is a pretty big rule for NHTSA. If it sounds small, you're probably thinking about, wait, no, AEB is a lot bigger crash problem than that. And some of that's going to get taken care of, we predicted, voluntarily, whether we did a regulation or not. But yeah, we think 362 lives a year, and over 24,000 injuries prevented a year.
Yeah, those things are all in your really fine report that you put out there. I mean, it has well, I thought it was, I haven't read every word. I went through a lot of it, but it really is a very good report, well supported with data, as of course it should be. And yes, and it is important for you to point out that you're taking the momentum of the industry as to where they might be if you didn't act, versus if now you bring in whoever the top ones are, we're going to be there anyway. Okay, they let's call it Toyota, may or may not be Toyota because they are there. You know, this regulation does nothing. It saves no lives with respect to Toyota because they would have been there anyway. Now, you know, that might not be a good thing to say about you, but it is. I mean, you know, but the other ones who, for whatever reason, maybe their customer set, or what they they needed to be kind of encouraged, and that those end up being really big numbers. I mean, there's no reason why we have almost any rear end crashes except for the really big ones, which we still have to deal with. And the crash mitigation aspect of this this is no collision to 80 kilometers an hour. This is not this. It's this. I mean, you know, which is kind of key. And then at the higher speeds, then whatever. Yeah. Of course, what about the backing up? Did you already have this in the backing up? Because there's automated emergency braking associated with being in reverse. But I believe it's in reverse, you're dealing with speeds 5 miles an hour type of thing. At least, you know, you run over a kid behind you that you didn't see. 5 miles an hour. Oh my goodness, you know, please, as we will know. But I thought, have you handled that one, or is that implicit here, or where are we in the backup, or they're just doing it because it's so easy and obvious?
Yeah. So for the backing, this rule doesn't do anything. Everything is forward moving for this.
Yeah.
We did regulate a few years ago the cameras in the back,
of
and
course,
those are having a great impact on safety. At least you can see things.
Well, but you got to be looking, which is always the problem. I mean, if I was looking in my rear view mirror, it wouldn't happen. If I'm looking, it wouldn't happen. And I think, but my feeling is that the industry realizes this is a simple one. This isn't one in which, if you know, it's going to go off on me and I'm going to get angry or something like that. I mean, you know, how often are you going backwards, first of all, and how often are you going backwards at any speed that, you know, you would worry about a false alarm that bugs you. And of course, the get out of jail free card that you get out of this one when you weren't looking. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's the value proposition for each one of those is just huge. So maybe that's one where you didn't need to come in, because certainly with your analysis, the industry was going to get there anyway. The value of any ruling that you might make, just like with Toyota, is nothing, but for the others is something, and that's to be applauded, right? I mean, at least I applaud you for it.
There may be some who would wonder, okay, if it's this beneficial, why wait? Why this lead time? I think we know the answer if you think about it for a minute. But what do you tell people who wonder why 2029? Why not next year?
Yeah. So we have a manufacturer who's kind of there. We have manufacturers who aren't there yet, and to do that engineering work takes time. Automotive world lives in cycles, right? We do major model changes, and those do happen over time. And to avoid kind of requiring a sudden surge of a huge amount of resources all in a very short amount of time, to make sure they're getting all the kinks out for the false activations, the entirety of the development. It's an engineering challenge. And not so much for the ones who kind of have it already, they need to sew it up and make sure that, they meet every thing within the regulation. But the others have a lot of engineering work to do. And not all of it's necessarily, right off of the shelf from a supplier. It takes some integration into the vehicle as well.
Yeah. So in that process, I guess, I hope, we can say that you said that Toyota passed it. If we don't want to say that. Is there sort of a marketing business advantage now for Toyota to go out there and say, hey, we do that, we've been doing it. You don't have to wait till 2029. And if some of them start doing that, do you think that accelerates the 20? I don't know what happened with the electronic stability control. It seemed to me that essentially, how early was 90% of the car sales included the stability control before 2012? I mean, how many waited to? Maybe we should, if you don't know that off the top of your head, maybe Fred and I will look it up. I mean, it must be available someplace or something like that, or maybe you know that.
I believe that the industry was in the 70% range or so with ESC before it actually became okay, now you have to have it. One of the tools that NHTSA has is our new car assessment program.
Yeah.
And one of the things that it may do, it potentially could do in the future, is to say, look, this vehicle does it already. And if you value that as a consumer, then there you go. You have some important information.
Yeah, and maybe if the manufacturer values that they got it done, maybe they should get the madmen on Madison Avenue to sort of, hey, look, you die over here. The opportunity to avoid this. Okay, even this is a total pain in the butt to the consumer. You got to take your car, got fixed. Insurance company calls you, have to deal with police. Nobody got hurt, but it's a total pain. My goodness, if this works and it doesn't happen, isn't that a value to won't every consumer say, I got to have it? Especially if they can make it available to me at some sort of reasonable price.
I think when they know it, yes. That was one of the challenges that kind of caused us to know we needed to regulate was you look at the sticker and you see it says I have AEB. Okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, it can mean a lot of different things. It can mean you're still slamming into someone if you're driving more than 25 miles an hour, or it can mean you're completely avoiding it at 80 kilometers per hour, right?
Yeah.
So this is it's a lot of difficult information to convey easily, and that's why regulation really fit here.
Is there a new moniker or something that's needed to tell people that because, as you said, AAB can mean a lot of different things. Should there be something that designates that it meets your standard here, this 2029 standard?
Well, by 2029, right, there's no choice. Up until then, I don't want to jump any plans that folks already have.
Yeah, but it would seem to me if the original equipment manufacturers are awake out there, it would seem to me that they would set up these tests to see how well they do or don't do. And if they pass it, it would seem, really, Madison Avenue would say, oh, we don't want to tell the folks about this. I don't.
We haven't even talked about the insurance company, which should be, breaking champagne bottles out.
Yeah, although some insurance companies think that now nobody's going to, my insurance premiums are going to have to go down, and therefore my revenue is going to go down. And of course, what I tell them is, hey, what's important to you, top line or bottom line? You get a choice, okay? And if you're a top line person, you shouldn't be in business. What's important is the bottom line, is what you end up keeping, not what you end up, collecting. And so by collecting less, you keep more. You're not happy. Cut it out. I mean, think of what it does for insurance. Because you know how much of a pain in the butt these little ones are. Must pull their hair out.
Yep.
And so, yes, they'll have to reduce the top. They'll have to reduce the top a little bit. But guess what? You know, the important thing is what you get to keep after that time period. Out to infinity, investing it forever. I mean, I'm going to become an insurance company now.
Alan, I'm sure this is going to be a great topic of discussion at the Smart Driving Car Summit coming up end of the month.
Yes, because that's been one of the three main topics of the darn thing is the advanced driver assistance systems and how we are not evolving and what value is being delivered out of this. I mean, out of the, in the automation world, the 300 billion or whatever McKinsey says has been invested in this. When are we going to start getting some real societal value proposition out of it? And of course, the front end of it comes out of the advanced driver assistance. And of course, to me, has always been the low-hanging fruit is what you've just instituted here. And the opportunity, even though the deadline, as you say, is out there at 29, seems to me the incentive, especially if there's one that has it already, how can Mary stay behind? She can't. She's gonna lose her. I didn't say anything. No, but come on. I mean, this is to me, this is so fundamental to folks who want to drive themselves. I mean, why am I crashing in situations in which, okay, I did peek at my phone. Okay, I didn't see it. To me, the worst, I'm at a T intersection following somebody. I'm going to make a right. The person in front of me starts to move. I look left to see if there's anybody coming. Oh, I can see why he moved. There's nobody coming. I'll be able to go right behind him. But maybe there was a pedestrian that is over here on my right. I mean, 2 degrees is all I can, really see. And I'm looking over here. I think I have a legitimate excuse that I thought I'd be able to go. The guy stopped, boom, I ran into him 5 miles an hour. I'd break my radar, who knows what, the pain, do. And it's totally, this thing's going to, that's never going to happen again. What happens if I hit the gas real hard in this thing? Is it gonna say, Alan, you made a mistake here? Actually, I made a mistake. I may have been trying to hit the brake real hard, but I hit the wrong pedal. Is this going to work in that one?
We don't specify in that. So there, some manufacturers use the accelerator pedal as a bit of an override intentionally, where they're like, no, I don't really want to slam on the brakes. And they do use the accelerator as kind of a kill switch for the automatic braking. And we aren't regulating in that area at all. That's going to be up.
Is that a loophole here?
I don't think so. I think it is up to the really smart manufacturers to implement this responsibly.
Well, but again, unfortunately, a manufacturer has 2 responsibilities. They have a responsibility to society, and they have a responsibility to their customer. And the customer is a pain. If I may say, I mean, they're the ones that are misbehaving. That's the only reason we have crashes, because we misbehave, or 90%. That's what I claim. It's not it's the misbehavior. Okay, I was going too fast over all the other junk. Okay, and including. All right, and so they've been very apprehensive of, they sold this thing because I'm the boss when I'm behind the wheel. Look at me. I'd make I'm exalted, and of course I wanted to hit the gas. Unless I really didn't, I made a mistake. So the probability of that to me is probably greater, off the top of my head, than the probability that in fact this is implementation of the brake. And these folks have to think about that. And hopefully, as you say, they'll do that on their own. You don't have to beat them over the head to do it. Sorry for the cliche, but not that you would. But I mean, that's the bind they're in. I'm sure they want to do everything, of course. But to have these customers who, for some reason, have these weird expectations. That's what makes the problem. If we didn't have that problem, this would have been, would have been solved long ago, wouldn't it? I mean, right?
Yeah.
And I guess Hollywood will need to get cars that are exempted to do all of the things that they do with vehicles.
Perhaps.
Can we talk about that as to whether or not how do you deal with how does one deal with a consumer who's purchased a product that does this, but then goes and clips it, or is there going to be a button that I can turn it off? I hope you don't allow a button that I can turn it off, because
we do not allow a button. We expressly do not allow a button. We specifically say you cannot put a button.
No. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that somebody can crawl under there and find the wires and clip them or something. I mean, of course, somebody will figure out how to do that. It's going to appear on the web, and everybody's gonna. I mean, it's just unfortunately what we have to do. That's reality. Okay. I mean, if we think that that's not going to happen, we're kidding ourselves. But it has to be made extremely challenging, and somebody has to be really wanting to do that. And maybe there are situations like you're doing a movie and you really want the cars to crash or something like that, in which you do that. There may be, but those things are so far at the low we've had some big problems here, which you're addressing here, which is what's really wonderful about this, is you're addressing that.
Just terrific. So thank you, Markus, for spending time with us, and congratulations on
thank you
moving this forward.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and yes, and kudos to NHTSA for doing it seriously. I mean, hey, and again, I'd like to repeat, I think that because you've set the date 2029, if anybody gives you, some whatever about that, because you've set that date, and because some can, at least a large percentage of the industry is gonna be out there, and the stragglers, there are always stragglers. You can't do anything about them, but much of that value I think will actually be occurring faster than unless you sort of included that dynamic in your forecast. You could have. I didn't look at it close enough to determine if you did, but anyway. I think your numbers or your expectations and the value propositions are all solid.
There's more info at NHTSA, NHTSA.gov. You can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, also on Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, wherever you turn to for podcasts. You can find my tech reports at Techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with Alain Kornhauser. Thanks for watching or listening, and please stay safe.
Thank you, everybody.